My name is Li Chengfen, and I come from a family of Feng Shui masters. The legendary stories of my grandfather and my great-grandmaster never fail to amaze me. My great-grandmaster, Li Jinshan, once defied fate itself by helping the wealthy merchant Chen Tinghai change his destiny. However, he paid a heavy price. He was struck blind as divine punishment. Later, my grandfather, Li Tiancheng, took on a dangerous task entrusted to him by my great-grandmaster, breaking the perilous Feng Shui formation at the Chen family estate, known as the lotus pod embracing the seed. The scene was nothing short of heart-pounding. Now, I too wish to restore my family's legacy. Who knows what kind of adventures await me? My name is Li Chengfen. I grew up under the care of my grandfather, a renowned Feng Shui master known far and wide. Thanks to his influence, I developed a deep interest in Feng Shui and divination from a young age. Though I am only 22 years old this year, I do like to think I've gained some skill in this field. My grandfather used to run a shop called Sui Yuan Hall in Qingzhou. However, due to his age and declining health, he closed it down 2 years ago and retreated to a quiet fishing village by the sea to live in seclusion. After I graduated from college, I struggled to find a job, facing rejection after rejection. To make things worse, my girlfriend of 2 years left me for a wealthy heir. The blow was devastating. One evening, after yet another failed job interview, I bought some alcohol and food and made my way back to my grandfather's place. After a couple of drinks, I told my grandfather, "Grandpa, I want to reopen Sui Yuan Hall." To my surprise, he refused without a second thought. He gave me a complicated look with his one good eye and said, "Zhao Thun, take a good look at me now. If you don't want to end up like this, don't bring this up again." My grandfather is disabled. He has only one eye and is missing a leg. He always says this is the result of revealing too many heavenly secrets and being punished by fate. That night, he began telling me more about my great-grandmaster, Li Jinshan. As it turns out, great-grandmaster Li Jinshan was once the top Feng Shui master of the Imperial Observatory for the Qing dynasty. Toward the end of the Qing era, he foresaw the dynasty's collapse and decided to flee. Life was hard for him after he fled, and he eventually collapsed from hunger on the street. Fortunately, he was rescued by a wealthy merchant named Chen Tinghai. Chen treated him exceptionally well, providing the best food and wine for 6 months. One evening, while drinking together, Chen Tinghai confided in him about his troubles. Despite his immense wealth, Chen lamented that he had no children to carry on his legacy. After studying Chen's facial features, my great-grandmaster suspected a flaw in his destiny and offered to investigate his Feng Shui. He discovered that the Chen family's ancestral grave was set up in a Feng Shui formation called hidden gold beneath the pillow. When I saw that Feng Shui formation, my brows furrowed, and I immediately understood why Chen Tinghai was childless. Chen Tinghai's destiny was ruled by the 7 killing star, marking him as someone destined for a life of toil and hardship. By all accounts, a man with such a fate as Houldn't have amassed great wealth. It turned out his immense fortune was due to the hidden gold beneath the pillow Feng Shui formation. Although this was a top-tier wealth-gathering formation, not just anyone could be buried in such a Feng Shui treasure spot. The ancestors had to accumulate immense virtue and blessings. Otherwise, the price would be severe, cutting off their descendants. I looked at the hill shaped like a pillow, with 2 graves resting atop it, and let out a sigh. Turning to Chen Tinghai, I said, "Brother Chen, there is something I am not sure if I should say." He replied, "Brother, speak freely." I took 2 steps forward, my expression serious, and said, "In the study of Feng Shui, there is an old saying, hidden gold beneath the pillow severs descendants. If someone without great ancestral virtue and blessings is buried in such a treasure spot, their family line will be cut off." Hearing this, Chen Tinghai feigned panic and said, "What is the use of great wealth if it means losing my descendants? Tell me, what should I do? Is there a treasure spot that doesn't require ancestral virtue or blessings?" I was about to say that such a place did exist when he immediately lit up with hope and begged me to help him. I was in a difficult position. His fate was already sealed as one that would end his bloodline. If I helped him defy his destiny, I would be risking divine punishment. I told him honestly that I couldn't help him and suggested he do more good deeds to accumulate virtue and blessings. But then, he suddenly knelt down, pleading desperately. He said that without my help, his family line would be cut off, and all his wealth would go to waste with no one to inherit it. He reminded me that he had saved my life and taken care of me for 6 months, asking me to at least repay his kindness by helping him. I am the type of person who believes in repaying kindness. Seeing him beg like that, my heart softened, and I agreed to help him. I picked an auspicious day and arranged for his parents' graves to be moved. We found a spot with a lotus pod embracing the seed Feng Shui formation. This was a top-tier treasure site. When Chen Tinghai saw the Feng Shui layout, he was absolutely stunned. After we buried his parents, the ground suddenly trembled. The sky was clear, yet thunder rumbled. In that moment, I went blind. I never expected divine punishment to come so swiftly. Later, Chen Tinghai's concubine and wife both gave him 7 sons. For the first 2 years, he treated me well, gave me a nice guest room, and served me great food. But eventually, he grew frustrated, thinking I was of no use to him anymore. He kicked me out of the guest room and moved me to the firewood shed, giving me only leftover food. I was furious and confronted him, only to discover that he had saved my life all along just to have me find him a Feng Shui treasure spot. Now that he had what he wanted, he completely disregarded me. Chen Tinghai was truly an ungrateful, despicable man. I wanted to fight back, but he kicked me to the ground and locked me in the stable, where I had to eat and sleep with the horses. I was imprisoned there for over 10 years. It wasn't until my grandfather appeared that my fate began to change. At that time, my grandfather was only in his teens, working as a laborer at Chen Tinghai's house, taking care of the horses. It was there that my grandfather met Li Jinshan, who was also living in the stable. Over time, the two became close friends despite the age gap. Li Jinshan confided in my grandfather about all his troubles, and my grandfather, feeling for him, would often bring him food from home. Eventually, Li Jinshan took my grandfather as his apprentice and gave him the name Li Tiancheng. He passed on all his skills and knowledge to him. From Li Jinshan, I also learned that Chen Tinghai was far from a good man. He mistreated people, bullied the weak, and was ruthless in his actions. His character was as rotten as it could get. Over the next 20 years, Chen Tinghai's 7 sons either became officers in the National Army or married into wealthy families. His influence grew stronger and stronger, and Chen Tinghai became even more arrogant. He practically ruled the city of Qinzhou like a local emperor. I worked for the Chen family, taking care of their horses for several years, but I never received a single penny in pay. When I went to ask for it, I was beaten. The frustration I felt was unbearable. So I confided in Li Jinshan. As I vented, I revealed all the terrible things Chen Tinghai had done, how he oppressed the people and was merciless with their lives. Li Jinshan was furious when he heard this. His face turned serious as he asked me, "Cheng'er, I have a task for you. Do you dare to take it on?" I replied, "Master, as long as it is not something that harms the heavens or the people, there is nothing I wouldn't dare to do." "Good," he said. "I want you to break the Feng Shui formation of the Chen family's ancestors, the lotus pod, embracing the seed." Without a second thought, I agreed, partly to avenge my master, and partly to rid the people of this evil. When Li Jinshan saw my determination, he was pleased. He then shared with me the method to break the formation. Chang'er, listen carefully. You must not be careless. To break the lotus pod embracing the seed formation, you must do it on a full moon night, just after the sun sets. Before that, lie in wait behind the Chen family's parents' graves. Wait for the moon to rise. Once it does, you'll see a lotus pod emerge from the top of the tomb. At that moment, you must stand around the tomb and call out, "Grandfather, grandmother." Then, a pair of elderly couple will emerge from the grave and start playing with the 7 children. At that moment, don't be afraid. Wait for the right opportunity. Then run to the top of the tomb. Grab the lotus pod and pull it out by the roots. After that, turn around and run, never look back. After hearing this, I felt uneasy and asked, "Master, what happens if I look back?" "You'll be scared to death," Li Jinshan replied with a grim tone. I had been learning secret arts of Feng Shui and mystical methods from my master for years, but I had never practiced them in real life. Hearing him describe everything so mysteriously, I was skeptical. Li Jinshan, despite being blind, could tell what I was thinking. He chuckled and said, "Chang'er, tonight is the full moon night. Once you go, you'll see for yourself whether what I said is true or not." So, I went, lying in wait behind the tomb mound as my master had instructed. I must have been really brave or perhaps foolish, because I actually fell asleep there. At some point, a cold gust of wind woke me up. I looked up at the sky. The moon was already quite high, but there was no sign of a lotus pod sprouting from the tomb, let alone any children jumping out. I thought to myself, Master was just boasting. I was about to turn around and go back to argue with him. Just then, something incredible happened. The moonlight shone down on the tomb, and the shadows flickered. Slowly, a golden lotus pod began to emerge from the top of the grave. 7 thumb-sized children appeared on the lotus pod. One by one, they jumped down, and when they landed, they grew to the size of normal children. The 7 little ones gathered around the tomb, shouting, "Grandpa, Grandma, come out and play with us. Ha ha. Just wait a moment. Grandpa and Grandma will be here soon," one of the children said. Even though I was brave, I couldn't help but shiver when I heard an old man's voice coming from the tomb beneath me. Soon after, I saw an elderly man and woman, dressed in lavish clothes, crawl out of the grave. I was secretly astonished. This was exactly what my master had described. I didn't dare be careless. While the children and the elderly were playing, I quietly crawled to the top of the tomb. I grabbed the bottom of the lotus pod with all my strength and pulled it out by the roots. Turning around, I ran as fast as I could. Behind me, a chilling wind blew, and I could hear the children crying and the old man shouting, "Return my Feng Shui essence. You've ruined the Chen family's Feng Shui. Your life is forfeit." I was so scared I ran for my life. Out of curiosity, I looked back once while running. I saw the 2 elderly figures and the 7 children, their faces twisted in anger, floating in midair, chasing after me. I was so terrified that my face turned pale, and I didn't dare look back again. I ran as fast as I could. It wasn't until I had escaped the boundaries of the lotus pod embracing the seed formation that the sound stopped. I kept running, all the way back to the stable, where I immediately told Li Jinshan what had happened. Li Jinshan could tell I had looked back, and he was a bit surprised. "You kid, you've got guts." When he found out I had broken the lotus pod embracing the seed formation, he laughed joyfully. The sound of his laughter startled a few mares, making them jump around. With my mission accomplished, that very night, I left the Chen family without telling him. Once the Feng Shui formation was broken, it didn't take even half a month for the Chen family to fall into disaster.